Well, as we started the show, I mentioned we have a guest in studio, Beth Van Duyne. She is a candidate for U.S. Congress. I want to have her, she's actually, I will tell you, she's right here, not in my district where I live, but close by where we are in North Texas, in the Dallas area. She's been on this show before, I can't remember why, probably when you were mayor of Irving, but in any case, we're going to talk about, she's running for U.S. Congress as Congressional in District 24. It is a very exciting race. We have, I think the Democrats think they might take this seat. In Texas, we're saying not so fast. So I want to introduce you to Beth Van Duyne, have her talk about why she's running for Congress. And I want to be sure and tell you, she is among the four GOP women running for U.S. Congress that are calling themselves the conservative squad. This is to challenge the AOC-led left-wing socialist squad that seems to have taken over the Democrat Party in Washington. So this is a conservative squad. She's also, the most amazing thing, one of 26 women GOP candidates in Texas running for Congress. So I love it. Love this. Beth Van Duyne, welcome.
Good morning. It's good afternoon now. It's great to see you again, and it really is. It's good to see you. I hope you had a great holiday.
We did. We did. How about you?
Well, it's amazing because we finished our holiday, and now we're immediately right back into campaign season.
Absolutely.
People thought, at the end of last year that, it's not till next year. It's not till next year. Guess what? Next year's now.
Yeah.
And for primary votes, that starts in less than 6 weeks. We have a few weeks before primary voting starts. So
it is amazing.
To your point on you had said that Texas is really going to be a focus of Democrats coming in, and they think they have an idea of how to crack that nut and how to be able to take over the state. And I'll tell you, you think about the craziness that you see right now going on the presidential debates, on the Democrat side.
Yep.
I am running because, I was mayor for 6 years.
Mayor of Irving, Texas.
Irving, Texas for 6 years. I was on the city council in Irving for Texas for 6 years. And I've been with the Trump administration under Secretary Carson at HUD for the last 2.5 years. I have seen how to get things done. I have worked with local, county, and state officials to get things done. And I really believe that should be our focus. You look at the squad that we see right now, the crazy socialist squad that's up there, and quite frankly, all they seem to do is push a socialist agenda, an anti-American agenda. They're not concerned with actually getting things done like building roads. They're not concerned with overhauling healthcare efforts. They're not concerned at all with border security. It's nothing about policy, and it's everything about the press conference. You have people who are running right now who are strong conservatives, who are strong Americans, who want to see what's best for North Texas families and for families, quite honestly, across the country. America is an amazing country. It's worth fighting for.
That is like the theme of my show is America's a wonderful country is worth fighting for. So backing up a little bit for our listeners so they know a little more about you. So you're mayor of Irving.
Yes.
Just what was that? You just were an extraordinary mayor. And I know you were recognized nationally for your leadership as a mayor in Irving. But what are your top things that you took on you're most proud of as mayor of Irving?
Well, quite honestly, we had a fairly corrupt system when I came in. We had a lot of under table, behind the doors projects that were getting worked on that I am a full disclosure. I think negotiations have to take place outside. And when you have behind the scenes negotiations that really harm citizens, really take advantage of taxpayer dollars, and you don't hold elected officials accountable, I think it's a disgrace. When I was mayor, we passed an ethics policy. Part of that ethics policy was term limits. I'm a strong believer in term limits. We also passed that if you are voting on vendors coming to the city, those vendors can't pay to be part of your campaign. They can't give you campaign contributions. Other things that we did in the city was really focused on economic development, bringing companies in, getting a lot of buildings and increases to our commercial tax base. That was the way to do it, was to focus and have a business-friendly community and really work with the private sector to come in and help pay for the things, quite honestly, that you need to be able to do to make a city safe and attractive.
Beth, I want to jump in about that because that's really a parallel to what President Trump is doing in the national economy. The idea of, is your way to make sure that families have food on the table and a roof over their heads and clothes for the kids, and can they buy the kids a soccer uniform for next year? the question of the left is, or the mission of the left seems to be, find some government program to fund. And the conservative or just free market answer, the American answer is bring in businesses that give people jobs, that instill a sense in people, I can be self-reliant.
Yes.
I can take care of my family. City level, same as a Trump level. Do you agree with that analogy?
Absolutely. I mean, we have seen it work at a government level, and we can do it again. I mean, you think about the things that Trump has been able to accomplish. Not only, and to me, one of the main things is all of his conservative federal court appointments. That is so important. But also things like trade agreements, taking it on, looking at our tax reforms. These are things that are putting dollars back into the pockets of the middle class, of basically every class, but also focusing on jobs, realizing that it's not public sector dollars, it's not government and citizen taxpayer dollars that's going to solve everything. It's getting the private sector dollars to be able to work to advance families and communities all across the country.
And that's why, for example, your contrast, because you are part of the conservative squad, and the contrast with the leftist squad.
Meat and potato issues that people care about, that they want their elected officials focused on. It's not all the the impeachment issues that we hear up there. It is the meat and potato issues. Can we go up there and do what we say we're going to do, which is what we're hearing from our constituents? I mean, when I go out, I've talked to thousands of people in the last few months, thousands of them across the district, and what I'm hearing is healthcare costs are skyrocketed. We need to be able to take care of our families. Okay, what are we going to be doing about jobs? We are so excited what's going on in the economy right now. How do we continue that flow? Yeah. What are we doing about transportation? I don't want to get stuck in an hour and a half worth of traffic every morning. Are we focused on those kind of bills? And what we see at the D.C. level right now by the radical socialists that are up there, specifically some of the members that you just mentioned, are focused on impeachment issues and things that people see as a push, as a not really taking responsibility at all of what their jobs are. It's an opportunity to be in front of a camera.
It's stumping for yourself.
It's anti-American. It is absolutely anti-American.
Yes, I use that language all the time. It is anti-American. One particular example of that is in the left-wing squad, the radical leftist squad. AOC drove Amazon. Her point was to not allow them to bring jobs to New York. Do you recall? I mean, this is
I recall that.
If you have constituents who need jobs, who are thinking, man, huge company, I could probably get a job, whether it's the lowest level one or executive ones or mid-level ones, all your constituents, you're saying to them, I don't care if you can get a paycheck, right. I grandstanded and I won, points in the Twitterverse.
Well, look at Vice President Biden, last week on stage, a few weeks ago on stage, when he talked about being able to literally blow up thousands of jobs in the oil and gas industry. Yep. This is Texas. Yeah. And those thousands of jobs that he's talking about are right in the middle of our state, a lot of them in the middle of our district. And they act as if that's not going to affect anybody.
Right. Right.
And that needs to be focused. And quite honestly, your take on what they're doing, Democrats coming in and thinking that they're going to be able to take over Texas, it is so important because Bloomberg, I don't know if you knew this or not, is going to be opening up a number of offices across the state. And he is getting that not just to be able to push a campaign for presidency, but at last year's Pete Sessions race last year, he put in over $1 million in the last few weeks of his campaign on negative ads targeted
against Pete
at
Sessions.
Pete Sessions. The focus is not just on his presidency, but it really is to make Texas blue. And think about what that's going to happen at the state level. You're going to have redistricting, and who's going to be doing that? If they can take over 8 seats at the State House, that absolutely affects redistricting moving forward the entire future of Texas. We need to wake up. We need to not just think that we're going to be able to intimidate Democrats. We shouldn't even focus on that. We have to outwork them. We have the ability, we have the message, we have the candidates, but our responsibility is to get them out, get them to the ballots. And every single one of your listeners, if they are interested at all in freedoms, in independence, and accountability of their elected officials, needs to work to be able to get people out. This is a really crucial year. We're going to have redistricting. Absolutely crucial year.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
2020 is a heart and soul of America election. it's a big picture thought of what America is. Is it an America that is increasingly controlled by the government, the economy controlled by the government? The Green New Deal is a good example of just complete control of the American economy, of every aspect you can imagine of the economy. Or are we still America and this freedom-based, entrepreneurial? It is a vision of America's future battle. It is this radical socialist squad that the left has come up with. They at first seem like they're so extreme. I mean, I actually think if you told us 5 years ago there'd be a squad of 4 members of Congress who are pretty much driving the agenda, and they're pretty much, 2 of them are members of the Democrat Socialists, the 2 others are just with them in spirit, and that this would be a serious, they'd be able to seriously shape policy, shape argument, shape messaging of the left. It should be, we need to realize that it is not just, we think they're extremists and crazy. They are trying to move America in that direction. It is time for the boldness and the rightness of the American ideas on the right to be spoken, to be yelled from the rooftops, to be spoken everywhere.
And I think what you're seeing is a whole group of candidates who are willing to do that. I mean, we are willing to stick our neck out there and say what people are thinking, but a lot of them are too intimidated to actually be able to say. But, as the election in 2016 showed, there were a lot of people who actually believe in the American ideal of being able to work on their bootstraps and pull themselves up by the bootstraps and look at hard work as equating to success. And I think if you look at our district, if you look at families across North Texas, across the country, they believe in hard work. And that is what should equate to success, and not having government expansive projects that continue to take money out of taxpayer dollar pockets and put it into, these entitlement programs that really don't motivate people to actually, create success. But they continue to raise the size of government and the number of people that we've got working there.
Yeah.
And that was really going to be damaging long term.
Speaking of the effort of the left to say they're going to take Texas, I saw there was an editorial over the weekend, Washington Post, and it was a woman who... and I'm going to bother even saying her name, but in any case, she was making the argument that Texas is more moderate on immigration than President Trump is. And so President Trump's immigration policies are not popular here. I'm going to contrast what AOC and the American left, the leftists say, which is they won't support the wall. They don't really want a secure border. They really don't support.
They want open borders.
They want
to
open
be able
borders.
to provide housing, health care, school to
So I take it you differ with them.
Millions of people coming across the country that we don't even know who they are. Coming into the country that we don't know who they are. I will tell you, there's low-hanging fruit of solutions.
Yes.
In the city of Irving, one of the things that we had done is we actually had our local law enforcement work with federal law enforcement on looking at criminal illegal aliens. So if you committed a crime in Irving, and you could not prove that you were in the country legally, we contacted ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. We detained the individual. ICE came, did an interview, and if they were found to have committed a crime and they were not in the city legally, they were deported.
So you were not a sanctuary city.
We were the opposite of a sanctuary city. We actually enforced our laws. But the result of that was you saw all of these activists from outside of our city come in and call us every name in the book. I was a racist, everything. But what they didn't see was the actual results. And the results of that were, yes, while we deported a number of criminal illegal aliens, the crime rate of our city plummeted to the lowest in our city's history, and that lasted for 9 years. We became the 5th safest city in the country. And as a result,
that is a great
streets
statistic.
were safer, our community was safer, we had people who continued to move in, we had businesses that continued to expand. So while the left's argument is to throw labels, nasty negative labels at elected officials, if you know that there is a solution out there, don't be afraid of it. You have to have a backbone. You have to be willing to fight for what you know is right. But they will try to shut you down left and right, and that's what I think you see from the crazy squad. But as conservatives, as elected officials, you have to be willing to have a voice and to fight for what you know is right. We did that at the city of Irving, and we saw the immediate results from that.
Okay, I did not realize that you had been so active in the essential basic idea of cooperating with the federal government, which honestly, it shouldn't be shocking. It is what our system is supposed to be. We have the federal government who has jurisdiction over all immigration and citizenship, and yet we have these islands all over Texas, frankly, in America that say we're not going to comply with that. So I didn't know you had that stat, and I love that stat.
Yeah.
Okay, so the other women, there are 3 other women and you running as a conservative squad. So what are the ways, you certainly differ with the socialist squad, AOC, on border security. What are the ways, what are they up to that you're opposed to?
Well, I think what you see is a completely socialist agenda, where things like healthcare aren't even a consideration. We're not talking about it. Their idea for healthcare, their solution for that, is have a government-run policy.
Right.
Well, you don't have to go too far to realize that is a failure. I have never seen areas that are already private sector where the government can compete. And I think on healthcare, when I decided to run for Congress, I had to quit my job. I had to quit my job to run because I was working at HUD, and I had to quit my job, which meant that I lost my healthcare coverage. So I'm now paying $1,200 a month with $6,000 deductibles. It's the biggest bill I have for a month for a product I never use.
Right.
And most people, I don't know how they can sustain that that cost. But on healthcare alone, what are some of the solutions? Well, maybe expanding our ability to be able to use our health savings accounts.
Right.
Maybe looking at being able to buy across states, across state lines for products. Increasing the number of products, competitive products that are out there by the private sector that are offered.
Yep.
Right now, I'm paying for prostate cancer care.
Thank goodness, yeah.
I probably will never need prostate. I'm paying for OBGYN care. I don't plan on having any more kids, but can I buy what I need instead of having to have everything forced on me? Those are meat and potato issues I think normal people want to listen to. What you're seeing up there right now by really the radical wing of the Democrat Party, Socialist Party that seems to be running things, is open borders, no accountability. Government's going to come and take whatever problems that we have, government can solve. And by the way, we're going to tax everybody to make sure that's done. Businesses are bad, jobs are bad. And really America is bad. It's this guilt mentality that if you live in this country and you want to fight for this country, that you're somehow a label. And I think what we're trying to respond is we have normal people in the Republican Party in our country that are willing to fight for our values. And those values are regular issues that normal people want to talk about. And that is the small, tiny segment of what a government should be doing. Let's focus on that. I think what you also see is people who are willing to put their necks out on the line and say, we're going to have a backbone, we're going to fight against it, and we're not going to be intimidated by name calling. Because we realize at the end of the day, people are interested in policies, they're interested in negotiations occurring, and they're interested in safe communities, access to health care, access to jobs, a strong economy, and strong border security.
I love all that. Beth, before we went on air today, we were talking about the Women's March, which is actually going to began the year that President Trump was sworn in. They had a Women's March, and they have it every year. They're having it again this year. It's on Saturday, January 18th in Washington. The next day is Sunday across the country in cities and towns, big and small. I looked at Women's March website again this morning to remind myself, and I tell you that part of the reason the whole Women's March thing bothers me is because the message of calling themselves that is saying whatever we stand for is the right thing for women to stand for. They're trying to co-opt women or signal we own the women's vote. We, the radical leftists, own the women's vote. We decide what women stand for, and women sign up. And I think you and your conservative squad and the 26 GOP candidates in Texas, women candidates in Texas, are all saying, not so fast. The Women's March doesn't speak for me. So what's your sense of the Women's March?
Well, I'll tell you, when I was in D.C. with my daughter, when President Trump got at his inauguration, and the next day was the Women's March, and I wrote about it, and actually on my way to the airport, we went downstairs, and there was a woman wearing a sign that said, "I am afraid." And that was the big message that they wanted to promote for the Women's March. And I remember having this long conversation with my daughter on the way to the airport about, this is not what the women's movement was ever meant to portray. Women are strong. We are fierce. We are independent, and we are a force of nature. It is not we are afraid. It is we are fighters, and we have the ability, we have the intelligence to be in the commitment and the dedication to be able to do these things and be able to compete on a basic level, at any level, You know, with anybody. I was the first woman who was elected mayor of the city of Irving. I'm the only woman who's ever been elected mayor of the city of Irving. I not once ever talked about my gender as a reason why I should be elected. I said, vote for me because I'm dedicated. I have a vision that you can get behind. I have the best interest imaginable for our city. And it's something that you believe in and you're willing to fight for it. I got elected even though I was outspent, 6-1
I remember
against
that, yeah.
an incumbent. But I got elected based on the message and based on my ability to be prepared and to fight for what I think is right for my constituents. Women are willing to do that, but everybody's willing to do that. When we sit here and we divide up our population, it is the exact opposite of what we should be doing. We are Americans at the end of the day. We should all be fighting for values. It doesn't matter if you're a woman, if you're a man, if you're black, if you're white, if you have come here from a different country, if you're a different religion. We all have things that make us Americans. And those are the things that we should concentrate on and stop trying to divide up the country. Just because I have a set of ovaries doesn't mean I'm going to agree with a woman. I also have a brain. And part of my brain is looking at what's in the best interest for my kids, for my family, for my community, for my country. And those are things like jobs. Job creation, access to health care, border security, basic fundamental things that the government should concentrate on. Women are smart enough to realize are in their best interest and their family's best interest.
Beth Van Duyne, that's very well said. You tell our listeners how they can find your website, read more about you?
Yes, website is bethfortexas.com. We're having meet and greets across the district. We're having fundraisers. People are welcome to contact me, email me at beth@bethfortexas.com. Love to hear comments and be able to get back in touch with anybody who really has an interest in saving our country and fighting for Texas.
Thank you. Beth Van Duyne, so great to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you. Folks, I urge you to go to Beth for Texas. I did that this morning. Actually, read about the kind of person that you just heard speaking on the show. Someone who is confident, who's competent, knows what she believes in, and understand that what you're really electing in 2020 is a direction of our country. It's much bigger than each congressional district or each race. It's a direction of our country. It is a belief in our country that really is on the ballot in 2020. I can't urge you strong enough to go read her website. Consider supporting her as I do. And I am very grateful for every woman running on the GOP side. I think we need more women running, speaking the GOP message. And I will say again, I talk on the show a lot, and I'm going to talk about it more in this 2020, this idea of Blexit was the Black and Latina exit from the Democrat Party. We need a feminine exit. We need an idea that women need to exit this vision that the left has for them, that all women can really ever do is sign up to be leftists, vote for the leftist agenda, vote for big government because we're afraid or helpless or some other way need government to take care of our lives. Feminine exit is the message that we are strong. We can stand up for ourselves, we can think for ourselves, and we can vote for a good and strong America. That's where we have to head.